Hi, I'm Sergio Daniels, a queer activist, artist, and media maker based in New York City. I identify as non-binary and use they, them pronouns. I've been a producer for the past 2 years at Manhattan Neighborhood Network through the Youth Channel, focusing on community-based issues across New York City. My passion for social justice and media production has empowered to launch Queer Justice, to ensure queer and trans folks are truly heard and humanized in the media and reported on accurately. The objective of Queer Justice is to highlight the injustices and the human rights violations happening to queer and trans people in America and across the globe. Queer Justice is highlighting the members of the community addressing important social issues and striving for social change, as well as covering issues and the community often underreported and stigmatized in the mainstream media. This show isn't solely catered to LGBTQ community, but the focus is ensuring that their voices and challenges is heard and humanized. The target audience goal is for the public, learning on LGBTQ rights, for the community organizer, looking for vital resources and new areas in which to address activism, and for people who believe that all humans should have rights to feel safe, protected by their governments, and have the freedom of be themselves. The show can be used as an educational resource to spark conversations in your schools, community spaces, and elsewhere on human rights. Today's episode is about how to be a queer ally and how one's life is changed by either acceptance or rejection. We will be covering the various social epidemics LGBTQ individuals face as a result of dealing with rejection, cultural biases, homelessness, suicide, conversion therapy, discrimination, violence, and just an unaccepting world. I'll be providing you terms, findings, and experts that will help you understand this beautiful and diverse community. And no, we aren't expecting you to remember everything, so please do reach out to us for any questions. So some people may ask, why is queer justice important? It's important to know that not every community is accurately represented in the media. I was inspired to create this show out of the need to accurately represent my community.
7 days a week, the darkest hours.
This is Sergio Daniels.
In the magic field, we let it all out.
And welcome to Queer Justice. Some of you might never heard what is LGBTQ+, also known as queer or pride community. According to Pink News, LGBTQ+ stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, and plus, which represents other sexual identities including pansexual, asexual, and omnisexual. It's the accepted and inclusive way to refer to the queer community, who can be grouped by one common theme, the fact that they don't identify as straight or cisgender. Here's a clip to give you a further breakdown on gender identity and sexuality. Over here we have the gender unicorn, where it displays how the human experience is a spectrum across gender, expression, sexual and emotional attraction, and identity. Some people are born male and end up truly identifying as a woman. Some people are fluid in their expression or flexible in their sexuality. Western Christian societies have constructed a binary of only two identities, straight males and women, when in reality, the spectrum of human diversity has always existed and is even among plant life and the animal kingdom. When you get a chance, read Professor Joan Rogarden's book, Evolution's Rainbow, Diversity, Gender, and Sexuality in Nature and People, from the University of California Press, where she, as a trans woman and researcher, has explored all aspects of sexual reproduction, including the sexual behavior of animals, the development of human sex differences, and the varied role the gender plays in world cultures. For those that are questioning their own identities, and if they are categorized as queer, wherever you are on the spectrum, know it is natural, and I and millions of others will love you for who you are. Now, as much as the queer community is vibrant, diverse, talented, and beautiful in the way they present and contribute to the world's development, unfortunately, there are many hurdles, societal challenges, and even harm done to the community, which demonstrates you can make a difference and become an ally and prevent anyone from experiencing further oppression for who they are. One such epidemic is the high rate of suicide due to family and community rejection, hateful religious ideologies, lack of legal protection, and lack of affirmation, especially among the young. According to the Trevor Project, the nation's leading organization in ending LGBTQ youth suicide, here is what they found in 2016. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people ages 10 to 24. LGBTQ youth are almost 5 times as likely to have attempted suicide compared to heterosexual youth. In a national study, 40% of transgender adults reported having made a suicide attempt. 92% of these individuals reported having attempted suicide before the age of 25. LGBTQ youth who come from highly rejected families are 8.4 times as likely to have attempted suicide as LGBT peers who reported no or low levels of family rejection. Each episode of LGBT victimization, such as physical or verbal harassment or abuse, increases the likelihood of self-harming behavior by 2.5 times on average. I want our audience to be aware of these important facts so you can be equipped to spread awareness and be a supportive friend to those in need of help. I personally struggled with suicidal ideation since 5th grade because I was abused physically, sexually, and emotionally from classmates, neighbors, and family, that I believed I'm not deserving of love and I wanted to escape my pain. I only was able to carry on through the support of other loving and affirming people, which you can have an impact on someone else's life. The number of anti-LGBT homicides in 2017 was 52, with 28 of them being mainly trans women and gender non-conforming people of color, which I fall under, making it the recorded worst year ever for murders of LGBT people. Beverly Tillery, executive director of the Anti-Violence Project, said in a statement, "The report is a wake-up call for all of us," and blamed the anti-LGBT policies of the Trump administration for the increased violence. Just in 2017, I was assaulted twice in public while taking a walk with my friends, and also by a cleaning lady while using the bathroom I identify with, all while other people stared, laughed, cursed me, and stood as a bystander while I was suffering. Don't be that person. As we say in New York City, if you see something, say something, but most importantly, do something, if it is safe to do so. Outside of physical violence I face, daily I am met with judgment, hate, discrimination, and feeling unsafe for being looked down upon as if I am a dirty animal. Body language is as harmful as words. Be mindful of your eyes, composure, and language that isn't triggering for anyone. We will talk about social discrimination and homicides in our future episode on trans rights in America. In America, up to 1.6 million youth experience homelessness each year. The rate of LGBTQ youth is 40%. While even a single young person without a home is too many, the disparity of LGBT youth experiencing homelessness is unfathomable. Once they are out of their homes, LGBT youth are even more vulnerable. They are at a greater risk for victimization, unsafe sexual practices, suicide, and mental health issues than non-LGBT young people experiencing while homeless. We will talk further about the social barriers for homeless individuals in acquiring and maintaining a home, job, and social services to remain independent and healthy, and added the U.S. government's role in anti-discriminatory laws that doesn't block hate. You might not believe this, but I've been homeless twice, from being locked out of my home by family and rejected from my community, with as of last week being my third time. Even with my PTSD and social oppression from my current state, it doesn't stop me from being here, an advocate for the community to protect those who have it worse. Talania Erickson, author of Unconditional, A Guide to Loving and Supporting Your LGBTQ Child, explains why parents reject their LGBT youth. They say sometimes it's based on religion. They think that their child is a sinner or that their child needs to be punished, so they see the errors of their ways. They might think if they force their child to leave their home, their child may return repenting, magically somehow no longer LGBT. A good way to start is for a parent to think about how they felt when their child was first born, the overwhelming love, sense of awe, and the sense of responsibility and commitment. Erickson said, "My number one piece of advice is to keep the lines of communication open and keep reaffirming your love to your child." Moving on to an intro of global queer oppression. New research published by the International Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans, and Intersex Association serves as a stark reminder of just how widespread criminalization of queerness can be. In a total of 74 countries, same-sex sexual contact is a criminal offense. From 2016, going from 12 to now 13 countries where being gay or transgender is punishable by death. These are Sudan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Mauritania, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Nigeria, Somalia, Syria, and Iraq. In 17 countries, bans are in place to prohibit propaganda interpreted as promoting LGBT communities or identities. These countries are Algeria, Egypt, Libya, Morocco, Nigeria, Somalia, Tunisia, Iraq, Iran, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Lithuania, and Russia. Surprisingly, a total of 40 countries retain a gay panic clause, which enables people to use as a defense for committing crimes such as assault or murder that they were provoked because the person was gay, lesbian, or bisexual. Only in 2015 did the NYPD here in New York City considers a murder towards a trans or non-binary individual to be considered as manslaughter. I could have been murdered a few years ago, and my assaulter would have walked away free. Now, before we meet our special guest today, we're going to learn about the word of the day, work, spelled W-E-R-Q. Is a hip-hop dance term meaning you absolutely nailed it with dominance and confidence. That dance move was fierce. I ain't just going to work, I'm gonna work. Welcome back to Queer Justice, where we have now a special guest who will share with us his experience in doing community outreach with LGBTQ and HIV-positive individuals. Sergio Osoria is a Latinx gay Dominican man who works as a peer recruiter at Project Stay. As a peer recruiter, he does community outreach to encourage folks who are at risk of sexually transmitted diseases to get tested. As an activist, they have participated in the CUNY LGBTQ Student Leadership Program of 2016 and 17, where they coordinate with other universities on creating initiatives of queer inclusion. He has interned with the CLAG Center for LGBTQ Studies at the CUNY Graduate Center this past fall. This past year, he has been awarded certification in National Peer Mentor Level 3, Phi Theta Kappa, and a BCC Honored Scholar. Hey Sergio, welcome to Queer Justice. So before we start, I want to ask you, what are your pronouns?
So my pronouns are he, him, they, them.
Okay, cool. And I'm going to go by they, them today.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. So now to the questions. We learned you work at Project Stay, which provides healthcare services to young people ages 14 to 24 through the New York Presbyterian Hospital. Project Stay works with community leaders, academic scholars, and public health professionals to serve Harlem and other New York City communities through two major programs, the Specialized Care Center and the Youth Access Program, which provides care for HIV positive or at-risk folks of sexually related issues. You also provide primary care with medical and mental health services for all these young people as well. So tell us about the program. Is this free or insured?
So the program, like you said, is basically for people who are, at risk of public health issues like HIV, chlamydia, gonorrhea, and things of that kind of nature. So these services are completely free, and I like the fact that they address the intersections of people who are undocumented
dreamers,
or have no health insurance, and if they need those, medical services to get tested and have access to pre-exposure to the anti-HIV medication, pre-exposure prophylaxis or post-exposure prophylaxis, they provide that kind of medication to them if they actually need it.
Perfect, thank you. And if anyone who's watching and is interested in this service, you could follow us online and we'll have the information listed.
Yeah.
Now to some other questions. What has been some triumphs and challenges that you've faced as a Latinx gay man?
In response to your question, I would like to start by, giving you a little background about myself.
Sure.
And how I navigated those spaces. For instance, I migrated to the United States at the age of 4. Coming from a different culture, a gay, cisgender person, it was a difficult transition for me and kind of assimilating to, the New York culture or the United States culture in general and the many, many cultures that we have here, since we're living in a cosmopolitan city. So the way I went about, navigating through those spaces as a, gay cisgender man, and participating in the community, as a LGBTQ individual, and through volunteering, the CUNY LGBTQ student leadership program that I did with Jade and other CUNY students, and my internships, I came upon the decision to identify as a Latinx individual because it creates visibility for people who are non-binary or identify as transgender, particularly within people of color.
Yeah, a lot of religions and cultures still have a very
exactly
gendered language, so it's interesting how the community has moved on to being from a very traditional community to being progressive.
Exactly.
So what has motivated you to go into the field of sexual health education?
So that's kind of related to my education and what I want to pursue for my PhD, but also my passion to contribute to the community, because I know back in the 80s there was this huge epidemic of HIV, and us as queer individuals and trans people, we are at a higher risk of contrasting sexually transmitted diseases than our heterosexual counterparts. So I want to kind of contribute to the community and just make sure that our medical needs are met and are addressed.
So in lines with that, why is it important for HIV care to be affordable and accessible?
I know that having access and affordability to HIV care is a huge and political controversial topic, the whole Trump administration, and I believe in universal health care for anyone who is at risk of any public health issues or someone who is diagnosed with HIV.
Why would it be best for an LGBTQ young individual to go to your organization versus a non-LGBT clinic?
What I like about Project Stay is, like I said before, they kind of address the intersection of people who are undocumented or without health insurance. So we have people in our community who are also queer individuals and also trans without health insurance and are also undocumented. So they address those intersections. So I like that about them, that even though they followed a different medical procedure for people who are undocumented or without health insurance, they allow them to get tested with them for free. They allow them to have access to PrEP and PEP without paying anything, because PrEP costs a lot of money. Yeah. And getting tested as well. So I think that's one of the facts that I like about Project Stay. Like for instance, before I was a patient at Project Stay, before I started working with this program, I had a PCP, a primary care provider, who was not familiar with my culture and trans people and Grindr and all these other dating apps and how our culture navigates through sexual health and practicing their sexuality and gender. So I wanted to move on from that and find someone who is familiar with, my culture, because they have LGBTQ staff that, provide medical health and medical services and things of that kind of nature. Yeah.
And I'm assuming it's all confidential,
It's
right?
confidential for sure.
Because for many people, as you know, if they're not out as LGBT, this is a place that they could get services without having to tell people, and also for them to not be discriminated against, which is still an issue in the healthcare system.
I completely
Now,
agree.
to veer off on similar related topic, but in lines of more of activism, according to Alex Donatelli, a non-binary blogger and activist from Charlotte, North Carolina, they wrote in Q Notes, "Allies can do better. Here are 2 points they left with us, and I want you to think about it and respond. Do not be offended if someone thinks you're gay or trans."
I think you shouldn't be offended at all, because we live in a society under the foundation of heterosexism, where being straight is normalized. So I think, in a sense, when someone who is straight and someone else kind of assumes their sexuality, hey, I think you're gay, you shouldn't be offended, because we have to be more inclusive of people of our experiences, people who are marginalized. And if you're actually an ally, then it creates more and more a sense of community and commitment to address all these issues. Yeah.
And what about parents, it's not enough to just tolerate your child. Oh, that's just them,
Yeah.
What do parents need to do to be truly accepting of their children?
I think they have to provide support, advocate on behalf of the needs.
And what about your family? How are they with you ever since you came out?
When I came out to my mother, the way I went around doing that, I first came out to my cousins, because they are more progressive. They have more of a progressive mindset than my mother and my older sister and sisters and my father. My father doesn't know I'm gay yet, but so I've kind of went about, telling them, hey, I'm gay first, because I knew that they would be okay with that. I came out to my mother back in 2016 in the summer. She had her misconceptions about, gay people, but she wasn't discriminatory towards me or my sexuality. She had just a few questions, and she wanted to understand where I was coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
With me, I have parents who are so-called liberal.
Yeah.
And even years after coming out, this is probably already I don't know, close to a decade of coming out. I mean, I think my parents always knew that I was different and I was just who I am, and they didn't want to label it or didn't want to accept the labels. But my parents still had a lot of stigma and internalized homophobia that they had to work around, and internalized transphobia. Now I don't have the healthiest relationship with my parents, and I think it's because of my identity. I don't blame myself, but I just try to avoid triggering situations, and everyone has a different experience. It's not like, oh, come out, it's all great. So,
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think everyone has, a different journey, and all these experiences make up who we are as a person. You have your experiences, I have mine.
Right.
And for me to understand where you're coming from, I have to listen to you.
Right.
And I would never have those experiences, and you would never have the experiences that I have. And it's kind of counterproductive to say, oh, my experiences are kind of better than yours, if that makes sense, or I have more experiences than you do, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Yeah.
Now, in lines with listening, let's talk about pronouns and why they are important. Everyone has pronouns, but for some people, especially among trans and gender nonconforming folks, pronouns can be isolating or empowering, depending on if people are kind enough to refer people by their correct pronouns. So let's watch this clip and then discuss.
Okay, perfect.
Pronouns are important because they indicate a degree of respect. Who doesn't want to be respected?
For a long time, a lot of people have felt like that they don't fit into the mold of primarily he or primarily she, or maybe they feel they're a blend of both and that there's not really a word for that.
I
If you're unsure about somebody's pronoun, pull them aside and ask, hey, what are your pronouns?
It's not even preferred pronoun because it is their pronoun.
Their gender is still valid regardless of whether or not you understand it.
Is an act of disrespect.
Everybody else in the world out there can say, I am, and they identify themselves, and everybody believes them. But when I say I am, I don't know why people just don't believe us.
Although you do identify as cisgender, and I am non-binary, but you are an ally to the trans community.
Exactly.
So what was just a quick point about a takeaway that you had with this video?
What I took away from this video is that it's about visibility and respecting, people, gender identity politics and things of that nature. Like for instance, like you said, I identified as a cisgender person, and I used the political term Latinx. So I use that as a political statement to provide visibility to the trans community. Whenever I do internships or I volunteer or I introduce myself to an audience, I always use those pronouns, he, him, they, them, to make sure that, people of these communities, are visible to other communities as well.
Yeah, we need allies, and thank you for that. So here we have a graph on pronouns. Female identifying folks typically go by she, her. Masculine identify usually goes, or male identify goes by he, him. Non-binary, gender non-conforming, fluid, all that usually go by they, them, and some people even go by ze, zer, and zers.
No.
So remember, folks, you wouldn't like it if someone called you Annabelle when your actual name is Daniel. So too with pronouns, be sure that you get it right.
Exactly.
Now, Sergio, let's act out a scenario where one's pronouns is used correctly versus not.
Sure, let's do it.
This paper. So, Sergio, you're gonna pretend that they, them is too hard for you to understand, okay? Hi, my name is Jay.
I'm Sergio, how are you?
And I go by they, them pronouns. What's your name?
You go by they pronouns?
Yeah, that's what I go by.
How is
Not
that
he, not she.
How's that a thing?
It's been a thing since the 1800s. Merriam-Webster dictionary, they, them is an accurate pronoun. When you say, oh, where's Sergio? And we're like, oh, they came back from the bathroom. You just used it. We always been using it.
I don't buy that. You look like it meant to me.
Well, it's part of respecting me, and it's the way I want to be identified, even if you don't understand.
I try to understand.
Now, in this scene, I walk into the women's bathroom, and I see you as a trans woman. You're gonna pretend to be a trans woman, and I misgender you. Na. What are you doing in this bathroom?
Using the public services. What are you doing?
Men are not allowed in this bathroom. Do I have to call security? Get out.
First of all, I am not a man. Gender is a social construct.
Well, you don't look like it.
Well, I am not a man. Perfect.
Well, I don't feel comfortable here.
Under the New York State law, I am allowed to express my gender the way I feel more comfortable. If I feel like I have to use this restroom, I will use this restroom, and you're gonna deal with it.
Ugh, you liberals. I'm just gonna get out of here and go back to Fox News. So, straight and cisgender folks often don't get how emotional, sensitive, and even scary it is to come out, especially if they feel unsafe or pressured.
Yeah.
So here's a video of what coming out looks like through a straight person's lens.
Wow.
Mom, I need to talk to you.
What is it, sweetie? What's wrong?
I've wanted to tell you this for a long time, but I was scared. I'm very scared of how you'd react. I can't keep lying to you anymore. I'm straight.
We are gonna get you late tonight. I know this girl, and she would be perfect for you.
I'm straight.
I knew it!
My weekend was great. I went up to Napa with my fiance.
That sounds
It was
beautiful.
beautiful. You married at all?
No.
Oh, you have a boyfriend or?
No, actually, I'm straight.
Oh. Oh, cool.
Ex-boyfriend said we should take a trip.
Oh, you're straight. Oh, I had no idea.
It was just like touchdown after touchdown. Oh my God. You guys see her? Wow, the things I would do.
Okay, yeah, we get it. You're straight.
Yeah, breeder. Shut up. Maybe you're just confused?
I mean, it's probably just a phase, right?
I just don't want you to go to hell because you chose to be straight.
I'm straight.
I was born straight.
I can't change who I am,
There's nothing wrong with me.
and I accept that.
So how ridiculous is that?
I know, right? It kind of implies this idea of like, you know how this society is built on the foundation of heterosexism?
Yeah.
So this video kind of shows how heterosexual couples and heterosexual people in general are normalized as opposed to...
Yeah, but just
Yeah.
how straight people just can't like
Yeah.
keep questioning your identity
Exactly.
and don't understand how hard it is and how oppressive they are by like looks and talks and
Exactly.
breeder and this and that and like put them in our shoes for once.
Exactly.
So we already talked about your coming out experience, but being you're gay, can I call you my bestie? Because I never had a gay friend and I don't want you to be my token, but I want you to help me with fashion. How does that feel?
It feels like I'm an accessory to you.
You're what?
An accessory to you.
Oh, but why not? Like, I just need a friend to help me with my look.
I understand the fact that you need a friend, but when you kind of associate fashion, these old stereotypical, you know, things that are kind of, that you think are correlated to, you know, gay people, it's just not right, in my opinion.
So we want to avoid stereotypes here on Queer Justice, and as part of dismantling queer stereotypes, here's another video on 8 things not to say to a gay guy.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Gus Camerdy.
And I'm Phil Picardi.
And these are the 8 things you should never say to your gay friends. You don't really seem gay.
When people say this, they think it's a compliment, right? Like, you're masculine, so therefore you're not really gay, and I'm meaning this as a compliment. But in reality, what's so wrong with acting gay, right?
No, I totally agree. It's like, it feeds off of like stereotypes of what gay is and isn't and should be and shouldn't be, and that's sort of ridiculous.
Oh, I get this one all the time.
Okay.
Gay guys just love me. You have a lot of gay friends, totally understand, but by a blanket definition of all gay guys loving you, you're kind of stereotyping us.
How did you come out? That doesn't seem that bad.
But the problem with this one is that, like, a lot of people's coming out stories might be super personal and actually might be really sad. So by putting someone on the spot and asking them how they come out, like, you don't know if they had to leave their home, if they had family difficulties.
Right, and it's like you're not asking personal questions back to these people that are asking the questions. Like, they're like, how did you come out? You're not like, when did you lose your virginity?
Oh, I bet you get this one.
Yeah.
Are you sure you're gay?
Oh my God, I have got that so many times since I came out. I've literally had friends like text me and they're like, I'm so supportive, but like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Like, why are you asking if we are sure that we're gay? Why would we have come out of the closet if we weren't sure?
You're my gay best friend.
Oh, it's so wrong. There's even an abbreviation for it, GBF, which is like the worst. Again, it's just stereotyping.
If anybody says that to me, I'm assuming they mean gorgeous. Or Gus.
You should meet my other gay friend.
I've had a lot of people tell me that. Well, and like some of my friends and stuff that I like started to tell, they're like, oh, I knew a gay guy in college. I'm like, cool, thank you for like
Good for you.
combining us in the same sentence.
Good on you, straight person.
OMG, I love gay boys, let's be friends. If that's your opening line as to why we should be friends, then I doubt it's gonna work out as a friendship.
Gay men are just like all other men that you've ever met in your life. We're all different.
Not defined by one word.
So I don't identify as a gay man, but as part of the trans and non-binary community, I'm tired when I hear cisgender or cis people and straight folks think that they're being helpful when they're either investigating mine or another person in my community's gender or body, and they don't understand how tranny, transgendered, or dysphoric is a slur.
Yeah.
So here's another video on if trans people say the things cisgender folks say.
Wait, so what's your name? Mike. Rocco. Nice to meet you. But like, what's your real name? That is my real name. Okay. Was it difficult to
come out to your parents as cisgender.
Are you afraid that people will like hate you or that you'll get hurt? Like, I support Brittany with what she wants to do. That's her life, but I just don't want it around my children. Like, how do you pee? Whoa, so you're not trans? That's so cool. I know another guy that's not trans. Maybe you guys know each other. Whoa, really? I would never know. You look exactly like a man.
You're really short for a woman.
You're really tall for a man. Why don't you try to be more feminine?
How come so many of you are sex workers?
Well, like, I can kind of tell by your eyes, maybe.
How do you know you're a woman?
How do you know you're a man?
Do you, like, have a dick?
How do you have sex?
And you're a straight white man, you're not trans. That is so brave.
So that's again just like another experience of like, what if straight and cisgender people have to be told about their gender, their pronouns, and how people don't realize the language, their body reaction, all that can be very harmful than helpful. And that all of us as people, we just want to be healed and loved and not feel uncomfortable, and some people just can't get that. So for some of our viewers watching these videos, might be funny and ridiculous to think you would experience this, when in reality, queer people experience these microaggressions, harassment, and discrimination that could be overwhelming, isolating, and can even lead to violence, just as labels and racism towards various communities is an unjust social norm. We want to avoid that, as people wanting respect from each other. Before we end today, I want allies to walk away with some helpful tips to be a better friend to queer and trans folks. Now, according to GLAAD Media, 10 ways to be an ally and a friend. 1. Be a listener and willing to talk. 2. Be open-minded. 3. Ask the individual's pronoun and avoid using guys in a group setting. If you slip up, apologize and learn from there. 4. Be inclusive and invite LGBT friends to hangouts with your friends and family. 5. Don't assume that all your friends and coworkers are straight. Someone close to you could be looking for support in their coming out process. Not making assumptions will give them the space they need. 6. Anti-LGBT comments and jokes are harmful. Let your friends and family and coworkers know that you find them offensive. 7. Confront your own prejudices and biases, even if it's too uncomfortable to do so. 8. Defend your LGBT friends against discrimination. 9. Believe that all people, regardless of gender identity and sexual orientation, should be treated with dignity and respect. And 10, if you see an LGBT person being misrepresented in the media, contact GLAAD.org or here at Queer Justice NYC. Now, what is another point, Sergio, that you want to leave? I mean, there's so many points to tell people about being an ally, but what is one point that's important to you?
In addition to the ones that you said, which are very important to me and the community as well, but also, like you said, volunteering, doing internships. If you go to college, if you're attending an institution, take a human sexuality course or a gender studies course, and that'll be really, really
Be
helpful.
woke, be aware.
Be woke.
And be productive. Now, the Allyship guidelines was part of GLAAD, so GLAAD rewrites the script for LGBT acceptance. As a dynamic media force, GLAAD tackles tough issues to shape the narrative and provoke dialogue that leads to cultural change. GLAAD protects all that has been accomplished and creates a world where everyone can live the life they love. I want to thank all our viewers for taking the time out to watch my first episode of Queer Justice, and to know if there's ever something you didn't understand or remember, don't worry, this isn't a test. Feel free to email me at mx.enigma22@gmail.com or on our social media channels at Queer Justice. Make sure to stay tuned for our next episode on immigration and queer deportation. I'm your host, Jajay Daniels, here at the Youth Channel based in Harlem, New York City. Stay blessed and continue to be you. Take care.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks.